The crash of the back door made Emma drop her favorite mug, coffee splashing across the worn floorboards of her bookstore as a man in an expensive suit practically fell through the entrance, breathing hard and looking behind him like he was being chased by wolves. "Please," he gasped, his green eyes meeting hers with desperate intensity. "I need somewhere to hide, just for a few minutes." Emma's heart hammered as she heard shouting from the street out front, the unmistakable sound of cameras clicking like mechanical insects. She made a split-second decision, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the storage room in the back. "In here," she whispered, shoving him through the doorway. "Don't make a sound." She barely had time to close the door before 3 photographers burst into her store, cameras raised, scanning the space with predatory focus. "Where did he go?" one demanded, a man with a shaved head and aggressive stance. Emma planted herself behind the counter, crossing her arms. "Where did who go? This is a private business. You need to leave." "We saw him come in here," another photographer insisted, a woman with bleached hair. "Sebastian Cole, the hotel heir. Where is he?" Emma kept her face carefully neutral even as recognition hit her. Sebastian Cole. She had seen his face on magazine covers at the grocery store, usually with some model or actress hanging on his arm. The caption always said something about his billions and his playboy lifestyle. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emma said firmly, "and you're disturbing my customers." She gestured to the elderly man browsing the poetry section, who looked up with irritation at the commotion. The photographers exchanged glances, clearly frustrated. "If you're hiding him, you should know he's engaged," the bald man said with a sneer. "Running from his own wedding. That's the story." Emma's stomach twisted, but she kept her expression cool. "I'm calling the police if you don't leave in the next 10 seconds. They grumbled but eventually retreated, though Emma could see them setting up camp across the street through her front windows. She locked the door and flipped the sign to closed, her hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. The storage room door opened a crack. "Are they gone?" "They're waiting outside," Emma said, turning to face him properly for the first time. Sebastian Cole looked different in person than in photographs. Taller for one thing. His dark hair was disheveled, his tie loosened, and there was something raw in his expression that the carefully posed magazine shots never captured. He had to be around her age, maybe 30 at most. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "They said you were running from your wedding," Emma said, unable to keep the accusation from her voice. She didn't like being lied to, and she definitely didn't like being used. Sebastian's jaw tightened. "There is no wedding. That's the problem. My father announced my engagement to Caroline Montgomery 3 days ago without asking me. I found out from a press release." Emma studied him, trying to determine if he was telling the truth. His eyes held her steadily, no shifty evasiveness she could detect. "That's insane," she said finally. "Your own father." "Welcome to the Cole family dynasty," Sebastian said with bitter humor. "Everything is about the business. The hotels, the resorts, the brand. I'm just another asset to be managed." He ran a hand through his hair, looking around the storage room. "I'm sorry for barging in like this. I was taking a walk, trying to clear my head, and they came out of nowhere. I'll go." "You can't," Emma said practically. "They're literally camped outside." "Do you want your picture taken looking like that?" She gestured to his disheveled appearance. Sebastian glanced down at himself and laughed, a real sound that transformed his face completely. "Point taken, but I can't hide in your storage room all day." "Why not?" Emma moved past him into the small space, which was lined with shelves of books waiting to be priced and sorted. It's not like I have anything better planned for you, and those vultures will probably get bored eventually. She pulled out an old folding chair and set it up. Sebastian looked at her like she was speaking another language. You would let me just stay here? Unless you have a better plan, Emma said. She grabbed another chair for herself. I've got inventory to do anyway. You can help. Something shifted in Sebastian's expression, a guardedness falling away. I haven't done inventory since I was 16, working summers at the resort in Maine. You actually worked? Emma asked, surprised. She started pulling books from the nearest shelf, checking their condition and making notes. My grandfather insisted, Sebastian said, settling into the chair. He picked up a book, examining the cover. He said if I was going to inherit the business, I needed to understand it from the ground up. Housekeeping, kitchen staff, front desk. I did it all. His voice went softer. He died 5 years ago. That's when my father took full control. Emma heard the weight in those words. You miss him. Every day. Sebastian opened the book in his hands and his eyebrows rose. There's writing in the margins. Heat flooded Emma's cheeks. Oh, that's probably one of mine. I annotate everything I read. It's a bad habit. No, Sebastian said, scanning the page. It's fascinating. He read aloud. The protagonist isn't running from commitment. He's running from a life that was never his own. He looked up at her. Did you write that? Emma nodded, embarrassed. It's The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway. I have thoughts. They're good thoughts, Sebastian said, continuing to read through the annotations. Really good. You understand these characters better than most literary critics. She laughed. I doubt that. I just read too much and think too much. Tell me about this place, Sebastian said, gesturing broadly. Your bookstore. Emma felt her protective walls rising. She didn't know this man, billionaire or not. But there was something genuine in the way he asked, like he actually cared about the answer. My grandmother left it to me when she died 3 years ago, Emma said, sorting through another stack. It's been in our family for 40 years. It barely breaks even most months, but it's mine. I grew up between these shelves. You don't want to sell it? Sebastian asked. I imagine the real estate value alone would be substantial. Emma's eyes flashed. Everything isn't about money. I know, Sebastian said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that most people would have taken the easier path. You're fighting for something. She softened slightly. My grandmother used to say that bookstores are the last places where magic still exists. Where you can walk in one person and leave as someone completely different, all because of the right story at the right time. Emma smiled at the memory. I believe that. This place matters. Sebastian was quiet for a moment, still looking at the annotated book in his hands. Can I read more of these? The annotations? Yeah, if you don't mind. Emma shrugged, trying to seem casual even though something about his request felt intimate. Sure. There's a whole shelf of books I've marked up over there. My personal collection that I keep meaning to take home but never do. Sebastian stood and moved to the shelf she indicated, running his fingers along the spines. He selected one, then another, settling back into his chair with 3 books balanced on his lap. Emma tried to focus on her inventory, but she kept glancing at him as he read, watching the way his expression changed, as he discovered her thoughts on love and loss and human nature scribbled in the margins of classic novels. You think Emma Bovary was sympathetic, Sebastian said after 20 minutes of comfortable silence. I think she was trapped, Emma corrected. There's a difference between sympathizing and understanding. She made terrible choices, but she was suffocating in a life that gave her no room to breathe. Like my father's engagement announcement, Sebastian said wryly. Exactly like that. Emma set down her notebook. Are you really not going to marry Caroline Montgomery? I've met her twice, Sebastian said. Both times at charity galas. She seems nice enough, but I don't love her. I don't even know her. He closed the book. My father says love is a luxury we can't afford. That the merger between our families will secure the company's expansion into European markets. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard, Emma said honestly. Sebastian looked at her with something like wonder. You really think so? Of course. What's the point of all that money and success if you're miserable? Most people would say money can buy happiness. Most people are wrong, Emma said firmly. Money can buy security and comfort, which are important, but happiness, that comes from meaning, purpose, connection. She felt herself getting worked up, the way she always did about this topic. Your father has reduced you to a business transaction. That's not love. That's not even respect. Sebastian was staring at her now, fully focused. You don't even know me. Why do you care? Emma paused, considering. Because everyone deserves to be seen as a person, not a commodity. And because you crashed into my bookstore looking absolutely terrified, and I have a weakness for people who need help. A smile tugged at Sebastian's lips. A weakness for people who need help. That explains the bookstore. What's that supposed to mean? This place is full of damaged books, Sebastian said, gesturing to the shelves around them. Bent spines, worn covers, dog-eared pages. You could stock pristine new releases, but you don't. You collect the wounded ones. Emma felt exposed in a way she didn't quite like. They still have good stories inside. Exactly my point, Sebastian said softly. They looked at each other for a long moment, something unspoken passing between them. Emma was the first to look away, unsettled by the intensity. You should probably call someone, she said, trying to sound practical. Let people know you're safe. Sebastian's expression shuddered. The only person who would care is my sister, and she's in Paris. My father is probably enjoying the media circus, free publicity for the Cole name. What about Caroline, the supposed fiancée? She's probably relieved, Sebastian said. This whole thing was her father's idea as much as mine. A business arrangement between two families. She has about as much choice as I do. Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and groaned. My best friend Rachel just sent me a link. You're trending on social media. Apparently, there's a massive search underway for the runaway hotel heir. Sebastian closed his eyes. Of course there is. It says here that you were last seen heading toward the waterfront district, Emma read. Which is where we are. They're going to search every building eventually. Then I should go, Sebastian said, standing up. But when he moved toward the door, Emma could see the tension in his shoulders, the reluctance. Wait, she said impulsively. What if you stayed? What? Not forever, just until this dies down a little. You can hide out in the back room, read, help with inventory. I close at 6, and by then maybe the photographers will have moved on to the next story. Sebastian studied her face. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because I don't think you're running away, Emma said, echoing her own annotation from the Hemingway novel. I think you're running towards something. You just don't know what it is yet. Something raw and grateful flashed across Sebastian's face. Okay, thank you, really. Emma felt a flutter in her chest that she firmly ignored. This man was engaged, sort of, and he was a billionaire, and he would be gone from her life in a few hours. Getting emotionally involved would be spectacularly stupid. I need to open back up, she said briskly. Customers will wonder why I'm closed in the middle of the day. You stay back here and keep quiet. There's a bathroom through that door if you need it. Emma, Sebastian said, and something about the way he said her name made her pause. I owe you. You don't owe me anything, Emma said. Just don't steal any first editions. She left before he could respond, her heart beating faster than it should. The elderly poetry customer was still browsing, looking annoyed at the delay. Emma apologized and helped him find what he was looking for, all while keeping an eye on the photographers across the street. The morning passed in a strange duality. Emma helped customers, recommended books, processed sales, all while hyper-aware of Sebastian hidden in the back room. During slow moments, she found excuses to check on him, bringing water and the sandwich she had packed for lunch. You need to eat, she said, setting it on the small table she had cleared for him. Sebastian looked up from the book he was reading, one of her heavily annotated copies of Jane Eyre. This is your lunch. I can get something later. Eat. He took the sandwich obediently, and Emma noticed he had been making notes on a piece of scrap paper, writing down some of her annotations. What are you doing? She asked, curious despite herself. Copying these, Sebastian admitted. Your thoughts on Rochester's redemption arc, they're brilliant. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks again. They're just opinions. They're more than that. You see layers that other people miss. Sebastian set down the book. Have you ever thought about teaching or writing literary criticism? I barely have time to run this place, Emma said. Adding another job isn't exactly feasible. But if you could, if money wasn't an issue, Emma considered the question seriously. I think I'd write, not criticism exactly. More like essays about books and life and how stories shape us. She laughed self-consciously. That sounds pretentious. It sounds perfect, Sebastian said, and the sincerity in his voice made her believe him. A customer called from the front and Emma hurried away, but the conversation stayed with her. When had someone last asked her about her dreams? Most people just assumed the bookstore was the extent of her ambition. The afternoon wore on. The photographers remained stubbornly planted across the street, though their numbers had dwindled from 3 to 1. Emma dealt with a small rush of customers, including a mother with 2 children who spent an hour in the picture book section. Normally, Emma would have been patient, even encouraging, but today she found herself eager for them to leave so she could return to the back room. When the store finally emptied around 4, Emma locked the front door again and retreated to where Sebastian sat surrounded by a fortress of books. You've been busy, she observed. I got carried away, Sebastian admitted. I started with your annotated collection, but then I wanted to see if I agreed with your assessments, so I started reading the books themselves. He gestured to the stacks. I haven't read for pleasure in years. I forgot how good it feels. Emma settled into the chair across from him. What do you normally do for fun? Sebastian's laugh was hollow. Fun. That's a concept. I attend galas, schmooze with investors, tour properties, sit through endless board meetings. My father schedules my life in 15-minute increments. That sounds awful. It is, Sebastian said simply, but it's what's expected. I'm the heir, the future of the Cole empire. He met her eyes. Until today, I thought that was just my reality, that I didn't get to want anything different. What changed? I saw the engagement announcement in the morning paper. My father called it a done deal. My mother just smiled and said Caroline would photograph well at events. Sebastian's hands clenched. And I realized if I didn't do something, if I didn't say no right then, I would end up like my father. Rich, powerful, and completely empty inside. Emma reached out without thinking, covering his hand with hers. You're not empty. Sebastian turned his hand over, lacing his fingers with hers. The touch was electric, sending warmth up Emma's arm. They sat like that for a moment, connected in the dusty back room of a failing bookstore while the world searched for him outside. "Tell me about you," Sebastian said softly. "Not the bookstore. You." Emma wanted to pull away to deflect, but something in his eyes made her stay. "There's not much to tell. I'm 28. I've lived in this neighborhood my whole life. I went to college for English literature, came back to help my grandmother when she got sick, and never left. Boyfriends. One serious relationship. We dated for 3 years. He wanted me to sell the store, move to Chicago with him for his job." Emma shrugged. "I said no. We broke up 2 years ago. Do you regret it?" "Not even a little," Emma said honestly. "He wanted me to be someone I'm not. This place, these books, this neighborhood matters to me. If he couldn't understand that, then he wasn't the right person." Sebastian squeezed her hand gently. "He was an idiot to let you go." Emma's breath caught. This was dangerous territory. She should let go, create distance, remember that he was leaving, but she didn't want to. "Your turn," she said, trying to lighten the mood. "Girlfriends. Besides the unwanted fiancé." "A few," Sebastian admitted. "Nothing serious." "It's hard to date when you're not sure if someone likes you or your bank account," he grimaced. "That sounds arrogant." "It sounds honest," Emma corrected. "And lonely." "Yeah," Sebastian said quietly. "It is." They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily from books to childhood memories to dreams they had given up on. Emma learned that Sebastian had wanted to be an architect, that he loved old buildings and historical preservation. He learned that Emma wrote poetry she never showed anyone, that she was afraid of deep water but loved thunderstorms. At 6, Emma reluctantly stood to close out the register. The photographer across the street had finally left, replaced by the usual foot traffic of people heading home from work. "I think you're clear," Emma said, peering through the front window. No cameras in sight. Sebastian appeared behind her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. "I should go." "Yeah," Emma agreed, but neither of them moved. "Can I come back?" Sebastian asked. "Tomorrow." Emma turned to face him, searching his expression. "They'll still be looking for you. I know. But I need to figure some things out, and I can't think clearly in my apartment with my phone ringing constantly and my father's security trying to track me down." He paused. "Your bookstore feels safe. You feel safe." Emma knew this was a bad idea. She knew she was already too invested in this man she had known for less than a day. But she heard herself saying, "Okay. Come to the back entrance. 9 in the morning before I open." Sebastian smiled, and it transformed his entire face, making him look younger and unburdened. "Thank you, Emma." He left through the back door, checking carefully for photographers before slipping into the evening crowd. Emma locked up behind him, her hand still tingling where he had held it. She was in trouble and she knew it. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the day, analyzing every word, every look. Her phone buzzed with messages from Rachel demanding details after Emma had texted that something interesting had happened. Emma ignored them, not ready to put into words what she was feeling. At midnight, her phone lit up with an unknown number. The text was simple. "Made it home. Reading more Hemingway. Thinking about running and searching. Thank you for today." SC. Emma saved the contact as Sebastian, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. She typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on. "Sleep well. See you tomorrow." His reply came immediately. "Counting on it." Emma finally fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, dreaming of green eyes and marginal notes, and the sound of someone laughing in her bookstore. 9 o'clock the next morning arrived both too slowly and too quickly. Emma had been at the store since 7, ostensibly doing paperwork but really just trying to calm her nerves. She had changed outfits 3 times before leaving her apartment, finally settling on jeans and a soft blue sweater that Rachel said brought out her eyes. The knock on the back door came precisely at 9. Emma opened it to find Sebastian holding 2 coffee cups and a paper bag. "I brought breakfast," he said, looking almost nervous. "I didn't know how you took your coffee, so I got vanilla lattes, but I have sugar packets if you want them." Emma stepped aside to let him in, touched by the gesture. "Vanilla is perfect." They settled in the back room, which Emma had tidied the night before, though she would deny it if asked. Sebastian produced croissants from the bag, still warm from the bakery. "How much trouble are you in?" Emma asked, sipping her coffee. "Significant," Sebastian admitted. "My father called 17 times last night. I finally answered and told him I needed time to think. He was not pleased. And Caroline," she texted, "asked if I was okay. I think she's actually relieved this is all blowing up." Sebastian broke off a piece of croissant. "Her father is furious, though. He was counting on the merger. What happens if you don't go through with it? My father threatens to cut me off, probably, remove me from the company. Write me out of the will." Sebastian said it casually, but Emma heard the undercurrent of fear. Would he really do that? "I don't know, maybe." Sebastian met her eyes. "Would it make me a coward if I said I'm terrified to find out?" "It would make you human," Emma said gently. "This isn't just about a wedding. It's about your whole life, your identity." "When did you get so wise?" "Too many books," Emma said, making him smile. "Speaking of which, I have a project for you if you're staying today." "I'm staying," Sebastian said immediately. "What's the project?" Emma led him to a section of shelves that looked ready to collapse. "These need to be reorganized, fiction alphabetically by author. I've been meaning to do it for months." Sebastian rolled up his sleeves, revealing tanned forearms that Emma definitely did not notice. "Put me to work." They spent the morning sorting books, falling into an easy rhythm. Sebastian would pull books from the shelves and Emma would direct him where they belonged, though they kept getting distracted by interesting titles and falling into discussions about plots and themes. "Wait," Sebastian said, holding up a worn copy of The Great Gatsby. "This can't be alphabetically correct. Fitzgerald comes before Foster. Foster is literary fiction." "Fitzgerald is classics," Emma explained. "I sort by genre first, then alphabetically." "That's chaos," Sebastian said, but he was grinning. "That's organization," Emma countered. "Everything has its place, including runaway millionaires in storage rooms, especially them." Emma had to open the store at 10, but Sebastian continued working in the back, occasionally poking his head out to ask questions about the system. Emma found herself hyper-aware of his presence, the sound of him moving around, his occasional laugh when he found something amusing. Around noon, Rachel showed up unannounced, which was both her right as Emma's best friend and incredibly inconvenient timing. "Okay, spill," Rachel said, leaning on the counter. "Your text yesterday said something interesting happened, and then you went radio silent. What's going on?" "Nothing," Emma said unconvincingly. "Just a busy day." Rachel narrowed her eyes. She was a lawyer, sharp and observant, and she could spot a lie from a mile away. "You're being weird. You're never weird unless something is happening." Before Emma could deflect, Sebastian emerged from the back room, holding a stack of books. He stopped short when he saw Rachel, and Emma watched her friend's jaw literally drop. "Oh my God," Rachel breathed. "You're Sebastian Cole." Sebastian looked at Emma, silently asking permission. Emma gave a tiny nod. "Rachel, this is Sebastian." "Sebastian, my best friend Rachel, who will keep this quiet because she's a good person who respects privacy." Emma stared hard at Rachel, willing her to understand. "Holy shit," Rachel said. "You're hiding him. You, the woman who won't even jaywalk." "It's complicated," Emma said. "I'll say." Rachel looked between them, and Emma saw the exact moment her friend's lawyer brain started putting pieces together. "Does this have anything to do with the runaway engagement story all over the news?" "Rachel," Emma warned. "I promise I won't tell anyone," Rachel said, raising her hands. "But Emma, do you understand the situation you're in? This is major news. If someone finds out you're helping him hide, then they find out," Emma said firmly. "I'm not doing anything illegal. He's a grown man who needed a safe space." Rachel studied Sebastian with open curiosity. "And you picked her bookstore, out of all the places in the city." "It was an accident at first," Sebastian admitted, "but now it's a choice." "Emma's been incredibly kind." "Emma is kind," Rachel agreed. "She's also stubborn and loyal to a fault, which means she's not going to kick you out even though this could cause her problems." She turned to Emma. "I'm assuming you've thought about what happens when his father's people track him here, because they will." Emma hadn't thought about that, not really, and the fear must have shown on her face because Sebastian immediately stepped closer. "I won't let anything happen to Emma or the bookstore," he said. "If it becomes a problem, I'll leave." Rachel looked at him for a long moment, then back at Emma. "You like him, Rachel. It's written all over your face. You're wearing the good sweater." "You never wear the good sweater for inventory days," Rachel sighed. "Just be careful, okay? I don't want to see you hurt." "I'm a big girl," Emma said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Fine, but I'm texting you later and I expect details." Rachel grabbed the book she had ostensibly come for, waved at Sebastian, and left with a meaningful look at Emma. "I'm sorry," Sebastian said once she was gone. "I'm causing you problems." "You're not," Emma insisted. "Rachel worries. It's what she does." But Rachel's words had planted seeds of doubt. What was Emma doing? This man would leave eventually, go back to his world of hotels and board meetings and society weddings. She was setting herself up for heartbreak. As if reading her mind, Sebastian said quietly, "I know this is temporary, but I want you to know that it matters to me. This place, these conversations, they matter." Emma swallowed hard. "They matter to me too." The afternoon passed in a gentle quiet. Emma helped customers while Sebastian worked in the back, and the whole thing felt strangely domestic, like they had been doing this for years instead of days. When the store emptied, Emma joined him to find that he had made significant progress on the reorganization. "This looks amazing," she said, running her hand along the newly ordered spines. "I had a good system," Sebastian said, "although I have questions about why you have 3 copies of Pride and Prejudice." "Different editions," Emma explained. "The annotations I made when I was 17 are completely different from the ones I made at 25. You can track my growth as a reader and a person through Elizabeth Bennet." Sebastian pulled out the oldest copy, flipping to a random page. "You wrote here, maybe love isn't about finding someone perfect. Maybe it's about finding someone who makes you want to be better." He looked up. 17-year-old Emma was onto something. 17-year-old Emma was a hopeless romantic, Emma said, embarrassed. "And now I'm a realistic romantic. I still believe in love, but I understand it's more complicated than books make it seem." Sebastian moved closer, still holding the book. "What would make you fall in love with someone? Emma's heart was racing. This felt dangerous, standing this close to him, having this conversation, but she answered honestly. Someone who sees me, not who they want me to be, but who I actually am. Someone who values the same things I do. Someone who makes me laugh. She paused. Someone who reads my annotations and understands them. The air between them felt charged. Sebastian reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. Emma, he started, but whatever he was going to say was interrupted by harsh knocking on the front door. They both froze. Through the window, Emma could see two men in suits, official-looking and determined. Not photographers this time, something worse. My father's security, Sebastian said, his face going pale. They found me. Emma made a decision in that split second. She grabbed Sebastian's hand and pulled him toward the bathroom at the very back of the storage room. Get in. Don't come out until I say. Emma, I can't let you. Trust me, she said, and pushed him inside, closing the door. She smoothed her hair, took a breath, and went to answer the front door. The men flashed identification that said Cole Industries Security. We're looking for Sebastian Cole, the taller one said. We have reason to believe he may have been here. I run a bookstore, Emma said calmly. Lots of people come through. He was tracked to this area 2 days ago, the other man said. We've been checking every business. Have you seen him? Emma met their eyes steadily. Even if I had, I'm not sure why I would tell you. Is he in danger? He's needed at home, the first man said. Family business. If it's family business, maybe he'll come home when he's ready, Emma suggested. Have you considered that? The men exchanged looks. Miss, if you're hiding him, you should know that you could be held liable for interfering with corporate matters. I'm not hiding anyone, Emma said, which was technically true since Sebastian was hiding himself. And unless you have a warrant, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disturbing my business. They tried to intimidate her for another 5 minutes, but Emma stood her ground. Finally, they left, though Emma knew it was only temporary. She waited until they were gone, then hurried back to the bathroom. They're gone, she said through the door. Sebastian emerged, looking shaken. You lied to corporate security for me. I technically didn't lie. I said I wasn't hiding you, which is true. You're hiding you. Emma tried to smile, but the reality of what she had done was setting in. But Rachel was right. This is getting serious. They're going to keep looking. Sebastian sat down heavily on the folding chair. I need to go. This has gone far enough. I can't drag you into my family's mess. What will you do? I don't know. Face my father, I guess. Tell him the engagement is off, that I won't be manipulated. Sebastian laughed without humor. He'll probably follow through on his threats. Cut me off. Where will you go? I have some money saved separately. Not much compared to the family wealth, but enough to start over somewhere. He looked around the storage room like he was memorizing it. Maybe I'll become a librarian, live a quiet life with books. Emma's chest ached. The thought of Sebastian leaving, of never seeing him again, was surprisingly painful. You'd be good at that. Emma. Sebastian stood and crossed to her, taking both her hands in his. These 2 days have been the most real thing I've experienced in years. Maybe ever. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. You barely know me, Emma whispered, even as her heart soared. I know you're brave and kind and brilliant. I know you see the world in a way that makes me want to be better. I know that when I read your annotations, I feel less alone. Sebastian cupped her face gently. I know that I'm falling for you, which is insane considering the circumstances, but it's true. Emma's breath caught. Sebastian, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know, before I go and everything gets complicated again." "I'm falling for you too," Emma admitted, the words tumbling out. "Which is terrifying and probably stupid, but it's true." Sebastian's smile was radiant. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, but Emma didn't want to. When his lips met hers, it felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deeper as Emma's arms wrapped around his neck and his hands splayed across her back. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. "What do we do now?" Emma asked. "I don't know," Sebastian admitted, "but I know I'm not running anymore. I'm going to face my father, end this engagement farce properly, and figure out what my life looks like on my own terms." "That's terrifying," Emma said. "Completely," Sebastian agreed. "But you made me realize something. I've been so afraid of losing everything that I never stopped to consider whether what I had was worth keeping. The money, the status, the family business, none of it means anything if I'm miserable." Emma pulled back to look at him properly. "Your father really might disown you." "I know." "You'd lose access to all that wealth." "I know. You'd have to build a completely different life." Sebastian kissed her forehead gently. "With you in it if you'll have me." Emma's practical side screamed warnings. This was too fast, too intense, too risky. But her heart, the part that had been writing annotations about love and bravery in book margins for years, knew the answer. "Yes," she said. "But Sebastian, I need you to be sure. Don't blow up your life for someone you just met. Take time, think about it." "I've had 29 years of thinking," Sebastian said. "I'm done thinking, I want to start living." They spent the rest of the evening making plans. Sebastian would go home, face his father, and officially refuse the engagement. He would also demand to see the trust his grandfather had left him, which his father controlled. Emma insisted he get a lawyer, someone independent who could protect his interests. "Call my friend Rachel," Emma said. "She's one of the best. The one who thinks I'm going to break your heart. She'll protect you because protecting you protects me," Emma said. "That's how she works." At 8, Sebastian finally left through the back door, but this time with plans to return. Emma locked up and immediately called Rachel, explaining everything. "Let me get this straight," Rachel said. "The runaway billionaire kissed you, told you he's falling for you, and now wants to potentially give up his inheritance to pursue this relationship." "When you say it like that, it sounds insane," Emma admitted. "It is insane. It's also kind of romantic in a completely reckless way." Rachel sighed. "Send him to my office tomorrow. I'll review whatever legal documents he needs help with." "But Emma, seriously, are you ready for what this might mean? If he goes through with this, if he really walks away from his family, it's going to be messy. Public. The press will dig into everything." Emma felt a chill of fear. She had never wanted attention or drama, but the thought of Sebastian facing that alone was worse. "I'm ready," she said, hoping it was true. The next morning, Emma couldn't focus. Sebastian had texted that he was meeting with his father at noon, and every minute that passed felt like an hour. She tried to work, but she kept checking her phone, willing it to ring. At 2, Sebastian finally called. Emma answered on the first ring. "How did it go?" "About as well as expected," Sebastian said. His voice sounded tired but steady. "He threatened to cut me off, said I was throwing away my legacy. My mother cried, which was worse than the yelling." Emma's heart ached for him. "I'm sorry. I talked to Caroline too. Apologized for the public mess. She was actually great about it. Turns out she has a boyfriend her family doesn't approve of. We're both fighting the same battle." Sebastian paused. I'm meeting with Rachel at 3 to review my grandfather's trust. There might be provisions my father hasn't told me about. Do you want me to come? More than anything, but I think I need to do this part alone. Can I come to the bookstore after? I need to see you. Of course, Emma said. I'll be here. Sebastian arrived at 6, looking exhausted but unburdened. Emma locked the door behind him and pulled him into a hug, holding tight. Rachel is brilliant, Sebastian said into her hair. The trust my grandfather left is ironclad. My father can't touch it. It's not billions, but it's enough that I'll never have to worry about money. That's amazing, Emma said, relief flooding through her. There's a catch, Sebastian said, pulling back to look at her. The trust requires that I work, that I build something of my own. My grandfather didn't want me to be a trust fund kid. He wanted me to have purpose. What are you going to do? Sebastian looked around the bookstore, a smile growing on his face. What if I invested in this place? Not took over, he added quickly, seeing Emma's expression. But as a silent partner. We could expand, do community programs, author events. Keep the soul of what your grandmother built, but give it the resources to thrive. Emma's mind raced. The bookstore had been struggling for years. She had been too proud to admit it, but Sebastian's offer could save it. But mixing business with their new relationship felt dangerous. I need to think about it, she said carefully. This place is important to me. I don't want to lose control of it. You wouldn't, Sebastian promised. We draw up legal documents, make everything clear. Rachel already said she'd handle it pro bono as a favor to you. Emma, I'm not trying to take over your dream. I'm offering to help you achieve it. Emma studied his face, searching for any hint of manipulation or control. She found only sincerity and hope. Okay, she said, but we do this right. Legal documents, clear boundaries, separate bank accounts. Whatever you want, Sebastian said, then kissed her until her knees went weak. Over the next few weeks, Emma's life transformed in ways she never imagined. True to his word, Sebastian involved Rachel in every aspect of their business partnership. The contracts were clear. Emma retained full creative and operational control of the bookstore. Sebastian's investment was structured as a loan with generous terms, to be paid back as the business grew. They expanded the space, knocking through to the vacant shop next door that Emma's grandmother had always dreamed of acquiring. The media attention was intense at first. When news broke that Sebastian Cole had officially ended his engagement and walked away from a prominent role in the family business, reporters descended. They discovered his connection to Emma's bookstore, and for a few difficult days, the shop was besieged by photographers and gossip bloggers. Emma hated every moment of it. She was private by nature, and having her picture taken while taking out trash or helping customers felt violating. But Sebastian was there through all of it, running interference, releasing a statement asking for privacy. And eventually the storm died down when a celebrity scandal proved more interesting. Through it all, their relationship deepened. Sebastian moved into a modest apartment 3 blocks from the bookstore, joking that he was finally living like a normal person. He got a job at an architectural firm, starting at the bottom as a draftsman, using the degree he had earned but never applied. His father had not disowned him entirely, but their relationship was strained and formal. Emma met Sebastian's sister Claire when she flew in from Paris. Claire was warm and funny, and she hugged Emma tight, whispering, "Thank you for helping him find himself." 3 months after Sebastian first crashed through her back door, the expanded bookstore held its grand reopening. They had kept the vintage charm but added comfortable seating, a small cafe corner, and an event space for readings and book clubs. The neighborhood turned out in force, and Emma stood at the counter watching her grandmother's dream come to life in ways she had never imagined possible. Sebastian appeared at her elbow, sliding an arm around her waist. "You did it." "We did it," Emma corrected. "Your vision, your heart," Sebastian said. "I just provided capital." Emma turned to kiss him, not caring who saw. "You provided more than that. You believed in it, in me." That night, after the last guests left and they were cleaning up, Sebastian suddenly got down on one knee. Emma's heart stopped. "It's too soon," Sebastian said immediately, seeing her face. "I know it's too soon and I'm not proposing, not exactly. But Emma, I want you to know my intentions. I'm in this for the long term. I love you. I want to build a life with you when you're ready." Emma pulled him to his feet, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, and yes, it's too soon for marriage, but ask me again in a year." Sebastian's smile was brilliant. "I'll put it in my calendar." They kissed, surrounded by books and coffee cups and the scattered debris of a successful party, and Emma thought about how much her life had changed. A few months ago, she had been alone, struggling, convinced that success and love were things that happened to other people. Now she had both, not because someone had rescued her, but because she had been brave enough to help someone when they needed it, and honest enough to accept help in return. The year that followed was full of growth and challenge and joy. The bookstore thrived, becoming a community hub. Emma started teaching a class on literary analysis, finally pursuing the teaching dream she had mentioned that first day. Sebastian's architectural work gained attention, particularly his designs for historical preservation projects. They had fights, of course. Emma's stubborn independence clashed with Sebastian's tendency to want to solve problems with money. Sebastian's family drama occasionally spilled over, especially when his father tried to manipulate him into returning to the company. But they worked through it, learning each other's patterns and triggers, building trust. Emma met Sebastian's mother properly at a small dinner that Claire arranged. It was awkward at first, but by the end of the evening his mother had tears in her eyes, admitting that she hadn't seen her son this happy in years. Rachel became friends with Claire, and the four of them often met for dinners where they laughed until they cried. Emma's world, which had felt so small, expanded in wonderful ways. Exactly 1 year after their first meeting, Sebastian came to the bookstore after closing. Emma was in the back room, the same space where he had hidden, now converted into a proper office. "I have something for you," Sebastian said. He handed her a book. At first, Emma thought it was one of her annotated copies, but when she opened it, she found blank pages. "What is this?" "It's for your next annotations," Sebastian said. "But look at the inside cover." Emma flipped to the front and found an inscription in Sebastian's handwriting. "For Emma, who taught me that the best stories are the ones we write ourselves. Will you write the next chapter with me? Marry me." Emma looked up to find Sebastian on one knee, holding out a simple ring with a single stone. "You said to ask again in a year," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "It's been exactly 1 year. Emma, you saved my life in every way that matters. You showed me what it means to live with purpose and passion. I want to spend the rest of my life reading your annotations and making you coffee and arguing about the best way to organize bookshelves. Will you marry me?" Emma was crying, nodding, unable to speak. She managed to choke out, "Yes, obviously yes." Sebastian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and Emma felt the rightness of it in her bones. This was her story, the one she had been waiting for without knowing it. The wedding was small, held in the bookstore after hours. Claire and Rachel stood up with them. Sebastian's mother came, though his father did not. Emma's father walked her down the makeshift aisle between the stacks, pride shining in his eyes. The ceremony was simple, their vows honest and heartfelt. "I promise to always see you," Sebastian said, "to value your dreams as much as my own, to never take you for granted, to read every annotation you ever write." "I promise to be brave," Emma said, "to let you in even when it's scary, to build a life with you that honors both our pasts and creates something new, to always have coffee ready when you need it." They honeymooned in Maine, visiting the resort where Sebastian had worked as a teenager. He showed her around, introducing her to staff who remembered him fondly. They walked on cold beaches and read books in front of fireplaces and talked about the future. "I want to write a book," Emma admitted one night, "about stories and how they shape us, using my annotations as a starting point." "You should," Sebastian said immediately. "You have something important to say." "What about you? What's your dream project?" Sebastian was quiet for a moment. "There's an old hotel downtown, Victorian era, slated for demolition. I want to buy it and convert it into community space. Affordable artist studios, a gallery, maybe a nonprofit office space." "That would be amazing," Emma said. "Also expensive." "I have some trust money left," Sebastian said, "and I've been building a portfolio. I think I can make it work." Emma kissed him. "Then you should do it." They returned home to find that Emma's book proposal had garnered interest from a small press. Sebastian's hotel project got approved for historic preservation grants. Life was busy and full, and everything Emma had never dared to dream. 2 years after the wedding, Emma found out she was pregnant. She told Sebastian in the bookstore, in the back room where they had first really talked, surrounded by her annotated books. Sebastian cried, holding her close. "Are you happy?" "Terrified," Emma admitted, "but yes, so happy." Their daughter was born in the spring, tiny and perfect. They named her Charlotte after Emma's grandmother. Sebastian was a devoted father, getting up for middle-of-the-night feedings, reading stories in different voices, baby-wearing while he reviewed architectural plans. Emma watched him one afternoon, sitting in the bookstore with Charlotte sleeping against his chest while he talked to a customer about book recommendations, and felt overwhelming gratitude for the day he had crashed through her back door. "What are you thinking?" Sebastian asked later, catching her staring. "That I'm glad you were running," Emma said. "Best decision I ever made," Sebastian agreed. He shifted Charlotte gently. "Actually, the second best. The best was coming back the next day. When Charlotte was 2, they had a son, Henry." The bookstore had expanded again, now hosting writing groups and children's programming. Emma's book had been published to modest but meaningful success. Sebastian's hotel conversion had won awards and was featured in architectural magazines. They bought a house in the neighborhood, close enough to walk to the bookstore. It was old and needed work, but Sebastian loved the challenge of restoration. They spent weekends painting and renovating, the kids helping in their chaotic, destructive way. Emma's book of literary essays and personal reflection found its audience slowly, through word of mouth and book club recommendations. She started getting invited to speak at libraries and schools. It was never about fame or fortune. It was about connecting with other people who loved stories the way she did. Sebastian's relationship with his father remained complicated. They had dinner once a month, formal and polite, but when Henry was born, something shifted. Emma's father-in-law held his grandson and said to Sebastian, I was wrong. About the engagement, about trying to control your life. You're happier than I've ever seen you. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. Sebastian took it, and slowly, carefully, they rebuilt a relationship based on honesty rather than obligation. 5 years after their wedding, Emma and Sebastian sat in the bookstore after hours, much as they had that first day, though now they were surrounded by the comfortable chaos of a thriving business rather than dusty storage boxes. "Read me something," Sebastian said, settling into his chair. Emma pulled out one of her annotated books, a battered copy of Anne of Green Gables she had owned since childhood. She flipped to a random page and read her teenage notation aloud. "Love is friendship set on fire, but first you have to be willing to sit in the smoke and make sure the other person is worth the burn." Sebastian laughed. Teenage Emma was dramatic. "Teenage Emma was right, though," Emma said. "We sat in the smoke, we made sure." "And," Sebastian prompted. "Worth every moment," Emma said. They kissed across the small space between chairs, a familiar gesture now but no less meaningful than the first time. Outside, the city continued its evening rhythm. Inside, surrounded by thousands of stories, Emma and Sebastian wrote their own. Charlotte started kindergarten that fall. She was bright and curious, with Sebastian's green eyes and Emma's love of books. Henry was 3, all energy and questions. They made Emma's life chaotic and exhausting and indescribably full. The bookstore continued to grow but never lost its soul. Emma made sure of that. Every new edition, every program was filtered through the question, would Grandma approve? The answer guided their choices. Sebastian's architectural firm made him a partner. His focus on sustainable historic preservation had gained attention, and he was traveling occasionally for consultations. Emma sometimes went with him, leaving the kids with Rachel or Sebastian's mother, who had become an unexpectedly devoted grandmother. On their 10th anniversary, Sebastian took Emma back to the storage room, now restored to its original purpose, but much neater. "Do you remember what you said to me that first day?" Sebastian asked. "About running and searching." "That you weren't running from something, you were running towards something," Emma recalled. "You just didn't know what it was yet." "I was running toward you," Sebastian said. "Toward this life. My subconscious knew before I did." Emma thought about the scared, desperate man who had fallen through her door a decade ago, and the confident, happy man standing before her now. She thought about her own transformation, from the struggling bookstore owner afraid to dream too big to someone who had built something meaningful and lasting. "I would do it all again," Emma said. "Every scary moment, every challenge, it brought us here." "Me too," Sebastian agreed. They stood together in the small room, holding hands, surrounded by books and memories and the foundation of the life they had built together. Emma thought about all the annotations she had written over the years, all her thoughts about love and courage and choosing your own path. This was her story. Not the one she had expected, but the one she had been brave enough to write when the moment came. And as Sebastian pulled her close and Charlotte called for them from the front of the store, Emma knew that the best chapters were still ahead, waiting to be written one page, one choice, one day at a time. The bookstore thrived for decades. Charlotte eventually took over its management, bringing fresh ideas while respecting the traditions Emma and her grandmother had established. Henry became a teacher, specializing in literature, carrying forward the family love of stories in his own way. Emma published 3 more books, each one exploring the intersection of literature and life. Sebastian's firm became known for sensitive restorations that honored history while creating functional modern spaces. They worked together on several projects, including converting an old library into a community arts center. They grew older together, gray hair and laugh lines marking the passage of time. They argued about book organization until the day Emma died peacefully at 83, Sebastian holding her hand, their children and grandchildren surrounding them. But that was far in the future. On this particular evening, Emma and Sebastian walked home from the bookstore hand in hand, their children racing ahead, the autumn air crisp with promise. Emma felt Sebastian squeeze her hand, the simple gesture communicating everything words couldn't. She squeezed back, and they continued home, carrying with them the knowledge that love, real love, was built not in grand gestures but in small moments, in annotations in book margins, in coffee brought on difficult mornings, in choosing each other over and over through every challenge and joy life offered. The best story Emma had ever been part of was her own, written one choice at a time, with Sebastian as her co-author and partner in every adventure. And as they turned the corner toward home, where dinner waited and the evening stretched ahead full of ordinary, precious moments, Emma knew that she would not change a single word.